The moment I walked into my cousin Melissa's promotion party, I knew something was wrong. The conversations dimmed to whispers, relatives suddenly became interested in their drinks, and my Aunt Clara, always the family gossip, gave me that pitying smile I'd grown to hate. I smoothed down my emerald dress, a splurge I couldn't really afford, and scanned the room for a friendly face. "Emma! You made it!" My mother's voice carried that forced cheerfulness she reserved for public appearances. She rushed over, champagne flute in hand, hugging me with her free arm. "We weren't sure if you'd come alone or bring someone. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from. And if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you." That pause before someone carried the weight of 1,000 disappointed expectations. For 6 months, I'd been telling my family about Ryan, my fiancé, a software engineer who traveled constantly for work. The perfect man who loved old movies, could cook better than any chef, and proposed under the northern lights in Iceland. Every detail crafted meticulously to end the barrage of questions about my love life that dominated every family gathering since I turned 30. Ryan couldn't make it, I replied. The lie so practiced it felt like truth. Last-minute client emergency in Seattle. Uncle Dave snorted from his position by the bar. "Seattle again? Busy man, this Ryan? Always somewhere we can't meet him." I ignored the comment and made my way to the appetizer table, loading my plate, with tiny foods that cost too much and filled too little. The banquet hall my aunt had rented for Melissa's promotion to senior partner at her law firm sparkled with tasteful opulence, crystal chandeliers, champagne fountains, and enough flowers to stock a small boutique. Meanwhile, I'd spent the morning negotiating with my landlord for an extension on rent. "Emma, sweetie." My cousin Melissa appeared beside me, resplendent in a designer dress that probably cost more than my monthly salary. She air-kissed both my cheeks. "So glad you could make it. Where's the famous Ryan?" "We're all dying to meet him." The emphasis on famous wasn't subtle. Neither was the skeptical arch of her perfectly shaped eyebrow. "Client emergency," I said, stuffing a shrimp puff into my mouth to avoid elaborating. "Of course." Melissa nodded, her smile not reaching her eyes. "Maybe he could make my wedding next month. I sent an invitation to both of you, though I wasn't sure about the address since you've never actually introduced him to anyone." The shrimp puff turned to paste in my mouth. I'd forgotten about her wedding. Another event where I'd be the subject of whispers and pitying glances. Poor Emma and her imaginary fiancé. "He'll try his best," I managed, reaching for a glass of champagne from a passing waiter. The evening progressed exactly as I feared. Family members approached one by one, each conversation circling to the same topic: my mysteriously absent fiancé. My younger sister Paige cornered me in the bathroom. "This has gone far enough, Em," she said, reapplying her lipstick with precision. "You need to either produce this Ryan person or admit you made him up." "I didn't make him up," I insisted, the lie so ingrained I almost believed it myself. "He's real. He's just busy." Paige sighed, capping her lipstick. "Mom and Dad are worried. About you. They think you've had some kind of breakdown." "I'm fine," I snapped, adjusting my dress in the mirror. "Perfect, actually. New promotion, great apartment, amazing fiancé. Sorry if that bothers everyone." "It doesn't bother us, Em. What bothers us is that you're lying." I left the bathroom without responding. The truth was too humiliating to acknowledge. I wasn't a successful marketing executive. I'd been laid off 3 months ago and was working part-time at a coffee shop. My great apartment was a studio with unreliable heating. And Ryan? Ryan was nothing but a desperate invention to stop the pitying looks and constant questions about my love life. The breaking point came during dinner. Uncle Dave, 3 whiskeys in, decided to make a toast after my aunt had finished gushing about Melissa's accomplishments. To Melissa, he raised his glass, who not only became senior partner, but managed to find a real man who actually shows up to family events. The room erupted in laughter, eyes darting toward me. My mother gasped, "Dave, that's enough." But he wasn't finished. "I'm just saying what everyone's thinking. Emma's fiancé is about as real as Santa Claus. What was it last time? He was in Tokyo? Before that, Chicago? The man gets around for someone who doesn't exist." My face burned, as relatives awkwardly laughed or studied their plates. My father looked pained, my mother mortified. Melissa had the decency to appear embarrassed by the turn her celebration had taken. "He's real," I said quietly, hands shaking under the table. "He's real, and we're getting married in the spring." "Then where is he?" Dave challenged. "Where are the photos? Why hasn't anyone met him? You don't even wear an engagement ring. The T. Ring. I'd told everyone it was being sized. Another lie in a tower of lies that was crumbling around me. "The ring is—" I began, but the words wouldn't come. That's when the banquet hall doors opened, and a man's voice called out, "Sorry, I'm late, everyone." Every head turned. Standing in the doorway was the most gorgeous man I'd ever seen. Tall, with dark hair, and eyes that crinkled at the corners when he smiled. He wore a perfectly tailored suit and carried a bouquet of white lilies, my favorite flowers, though I'd never told him that. "Traffic from the airport was a nightmare," he continued, striding into the room with easy confidence. He came directly to my table, bent down, and kissed me on the cheek. "Hi, babe. Sorry to keep you waiting." I stared at him, speechless. Everyone stared at him. "You must be Ryan," my mother finally said, breaking the stunned silence. "The one and only." He smiled, extending his hand. "You must be Sandra. Emma talks about you constantly." As he made his way around the table, charming each family member with personal details I'd supposedly shared, I sat frozen in confusion. Who was this man? How did he know my mother's name? Why was he pretending to be my fictional fiancé? When he finally took the empty seat beside me, he squeezed my hand under the table and whispered, "Just go with it. I'll explain later." Uncle Dave looked like he'd swallowed his tongue. Melissa seemed both impressed and annoyed that her thunder had been stolen. My parents appeared relieved but confused. "So, Ryan," my father began carefully, "Emma tells us you're in software?" "Cloud security solutions," he replied without hesitation. "Boring stuff to most people, but I love it." "And you travel a lot," Uncle Dave said, challenge evident in his tone. "Too much," Ryan sighed convincingly. "But the Seattle project is finally wrapped up. I'm hoping for more local work now." He turned to me, his eyes, a warm brown I could drown in, meeting mine. "I've missed too much time with this one." His smile was intimate, as if we shared countless private jokes and moments, as if he'd known me forever. I felt myself smiling back, drawn into whatever bizarre game this was. For the next hour, Ryan fielded every question with ease, constructing an entire relationship history that matched everything I'd told my family. He knew about our fictional first date, art gallery opening, my favorite dessert, tiramisu, and even pulled out his phone to show pictures of us together. Photos I'd never seen before, but that looked surprisingly real. The entire time, my mind raced with questions. Was this an elaborate prank? Was I losing my mind? As dessert was served, Ryan excused himself to take a call. The moment he left, my family descended. "Emma, he's wonderful. Why did you keep him hidden so long? Those shoulders, those eyes." "When's the wedding again?" I mumbled responses, watching the door through which he'd disappeared. Half of me expected him never to return, the mystery solved with his disappearance. But minutes later, he was back, sliding into his seat and casually draping his arm around my shoulders as if he'd done it 1,000 times. "Everything okay?" I asked tentatively. "Perfect," he replied, then whispered in my ear, Meet me on the terrace in 5 minutes. Say you need fresh air. My heart pounded as I counted down the minutes. When I could reasonably excuse myself, I slipped away from the table and through the French doors leading to the terrace. The night air was cool against my flushed skin. He was waiting, leaning against the stone balustrade, moonlight silvering his dark hair. Seeing him away from the chaos of the party, I realized how truly handsome he was, but also how completely unfamiliar. "Who are you?" I demanded, keeping my voice low. "Why are you pretending to be my fiancé?" He smiled, and something about it made my stomach flip. "My name really is Ryan, if that helps." "It doesn't. How did you know all those things? About me? About us? There is no us." Ryan ran a hand through his hair. "You're going to think this is crazy." "We're well past crazy. Try me." He took a deep breath. "I'm a waiter here. I was setting up for your cousin's party when I overheard your uncle mocking you about your imaginary fiancé. I saw how hurt you looked, and I just acted on impulse." I stared at him. "You decided to pose as my made-up fiancé. Out of what, pity?" "Not pity," he said quickly. "I've noticed you before. You come to the coffee shop where I work mornings, the grind on. Haven't? You always order a vanilla latte with an extra shot and sit by the window with your laptop." My mouth fell open. I did go to that coffee shop almost daily, had even noticed the attractive barista who sometimes worked the morning shift. But I never imagined he'd noticed me. "As for the details," he continued, "I heard enough from your family's conversation to piece things together. The rest was improvisation." He paused. "And those photos were AI generated. I've got a friend who works in tech who owed me a favor." I should have been angry. Should have felt violated that this stranger had inserted himself into my life, had exposed my lies. Instead, I felt a bizarre combination of relief and gratitude. "Why would you do this for someone you don't even know?" I asked. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. Ryan shrugged, looking almost embarrassed. "Maybe I wanted to get to know you. Maybe I was tired of watching you sit alone in that coffee shop, looking like you were carrying the weight of the world. Maybe I just couldn't stand the way your uncle was talking to you." He stepped closer. "Or maybe I'm just crazy. Jury's still out." A laugh bubbled up from somewhere deep inside me, the first genuine laugh I'd had in months. "This is insane. You know that, right?" "Completely," he agreed with a grin. "But your family loves me." "They do," I admitted. "Uncle Dave practically choked on his whiskey when you walked in." We both laughed, and for a moment, standing with this stranger under the stars, I felt lighter than I had in years. "So what happens now?" I asked. "You disappear and I tell everyone you had to rush back to—" "Where?" "Tokyo. Dubai." Ryan considered me thoughtfully. Or I could actually take you on a date, a real one, no pretending." His voice was soft, uncertain for the first time. "Just coffee or dinner, whatever you want." I should have said no. Should have ended this bizarre charade and faced the truth with my family. Instead, I heard myself say, "I'd like that." His smile was like sunrise. "Tomorrow, 7 p.m., I know a place that makes amazing tiramisu." "You really were paying attention," I said, surprised. "To everything," he admitted. "Now, we should probably get back before your uncle sends a search party." As we turned to go, Ryan offered me his hand. I hesitated only briefly before taking it, his fingers warm and solid against mine. This wasn't real, not yet. But standing there, his hand in mine, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Possibility. "Oh, one more thing," he said, reaching into his pocket. He pulled out a small velvet box and opened it to reveal a simple but elegant ring, borrowed from the lost and found, just for tonight, for authenticity. I stared at the ring, then at him. "You really thought of everything." "Not everything," he said as he slipped it onto my finger. I never planned what happens after tonight. That part we'll have to figure out together. As we walked back into the party, his hand at the small of my back, I realized I was smiling. Whatever came next, truth, fantasy, or something in between, for the first time in years, I was genuinely curious to find out. Uncle Dave's face when Ryan clinked his glass and announced we'd set a wedding date. That was just a bonus. When Ryan announced our wedding date, June 15th, a detail I'd never mentioned to anyone, the energy in the room transformed. My mother's eyes glistened with tears of relief. Melissa's smile tightened at the edges, her moment officially hijacked. And Uncle Dave slumped back in his chair, defeat etched across his flushed face. June weddings are so romantic, my mother gushed, already mentally planning flower arrangements and seating charts. Ryan squeezed my hand under the table. A silent question. I squeezed back, surprising myself. This charade should have felt wrong, but something about his presence beside me felt strangely right, like finding a missing puzzle piece you hadn't realized was gone. As the party wound down, Ryan charmed every relative, memorized names of distant cousins, and somehow knew my great-aunt Edith's recipe for blueberry cobbler. Emma raves about it. Each interaction was a masterclass in improvisation, building a web of shared history that never existed until tonight. Driving home, we sat in awkward silence until I finally asked, "How did you know my address?" Ryan kept his eyes on the road. "You put it on your coffee shop loyalty card application." "That's borderline stalking," I said, but without heat. "Or excellent customer service," he countered with a half smile. "I can drop you off and disappear. Forever if that's what you want." The thought sent an unexpected pang through me. "And leave me to explain your mysterious vanishing to my family? I don't think so." I studied his profile in the dashboard light. "You're stuck with me through at least one real date now." At my apartment door, the inevitable moment arrived, the good night. Ryan stood with hands in his pockets, suddenly looking younger, less certain than the confident man who'd commanded a room of strangers hours before. "So, tomorrow at 7? He asked. "I'll be there." He leaned forward slowly, giving me time to pull away, and pressed a gentle kiss to my cheek. "Good night, Emma." After he left, I touched the spot where his lips had been, wondering how this stranger had deconstructed and rebuilt my entire life in one evening. The next morning brought a barrage of texts from family members, all variations on a theme. "Ryan is wonderful. Ryan is handsome. When can we see Ryan again?" My mother called 3 times before I answered. "Emma, darling, I just wanted to say how thrilled we all are to finally meet Ryan. He's everything you described and more." "Thanks, Mom," I mumbled, guilt twisting in my stomach. "And the ring is beautiful. Simple but elegant, just your style. Though why you kept it a secret for so long is beyond me. Was it really being sized all this time? The ring, in the chaos of the previous night, I'd forgotten to return it. I glanced at my nightstand where I'd placed it, a delicate silver band with a small moonstone. Not flashy or expensive, but strangely perfect. "It's complicated, Mom," I said, which wasn't a lie. "Well, your father and I would love to have you both over for dinner next weekend. Nothing fancy, just family." Ryan mentioned he loves Dad's grilled salmon. Of course he did. Another improvised detail to maintain our fictional romance. "I'll check with him and get back to you," I promised, then ended the call before she could extract more commitments. I spent the day alternating between anxiety about my evening date and panic about the expanding fabric of lies Ryan had woven. Did I really want to pursue whatever this was? A relationship built on deception, with a man who thought nothing of fabricating an entire history between us? Yet when 7 o'clock arrived, I found myself at Bella Nota, an intimate Italian restaurant I'd never been to before. Ryan was already seated, his expression lighting up when he saw me. He'd swapped his formal suit for dark jeans and a blue button-down that made his eyes more striking than I remembered. "You came," he said, standing as I approached. "I came," I confirmed, settling into the chair he pulled out. "Though I'm still not entirely sure why." "Excellent tiramisu," he offered, pushing a menu toward me. "And I figured you deserved a proper explanation." Over appetizers, Ryan finally told me his story. 29, former tech industry worker who burned out after 5 years of 80-hour weeks, now worked part-time at the coffee shop while finishing his novel. A thriller about identity theft, ironically enough. No serious relationships in 2 years, not since his ex moved to Portland without him. "Why did you really help me last night?" I asked after our main courses arrived. "The truth this time," Ryan twirled pasta thoughtfully. "I wasn't lying when I said I've noticed you at the coffee shop. You have this way of looking at people, really seeing them, while everyone else is buried in their phones. And you're kind. To the staff, even when we're slammed. That's basic human decency. You'd be surprised how rare that is." He set down his fork. "When I overheard what was happening at the party, I recognized you immediately, and the way your uncle spoke to you." His jaw tightened. "I lost my mom last year. Before she died, she told me her biggest regret was caring too much about what others thought, letting their expectations dictate her choices. I'm sorry about your mom," I said softly. "Me too. But I promised her I'd live differently. So when I saw what was happening, I thought, maybe this is one of those moments. Maybe I can help someone break free from caring what others think." "By helping me lie more convincingly?" "By giving you space to find your truth without judgment," I laughed despite myself. "That's some serious coffee shop philosophy." His smile returned. "I'm much deeper than my latte art suggests." As the evening progressed, I found myself telling Ryan things I rarely shared. My layoff, the financial struggles, the mounting pressure from a family where success was measured in promotions and wedding rings. "Why didn't you just tell them the truth?" he asked. I traced the rim of my wine glass. "Because I was always the responsible one, the planner, the one who had it all figured out. Admitting I'd failed felt impossible." "You haven't failed, Emma. You've just encountered a plot twist." When tiramisu arrived, as delicious as promised, Ryan reached across the table and gently took my hand. "I have a proposition." "Another one?" "Your last proposition involved impersonating my fictional fiancé. The bar is pretty high." His laugh warmed something inside me. "Let me be your fake fiancé for a bit longer." I blinked. "What?" "Just hear me out. Your family is finally off your back. They're happy. You have breathing room to figure out your next steps without their judgment. And what do you get out of this arrangement?" His expression softened. "Time with you. No pressure, no expectations. Just getting to know each other while maintaining your cover story." "That's insane," I said, but my heart raced at the possibility. "Probably, but it could also be fun. Think about it. We could create any story we want, and maybe, along the way, we find something real." Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. I should have said no. Should have ended the charade and faced my family with the truth. Instead, I found myself nodding. Ground rules. We're honest with each other, even if we're lying to everyone else. No pressure. And we can end this anytime, no questions asked. "Deal," he said immediately. "And I'll return the ring. And I'll return the ring." I twisted the moonstone band I'd worn to dinner, surprising myself. "Actually, I like this one. If we're doing this, I might as well wear it." Ryan's smile could have powered the city. The following weeks unfolded like scenes from someone else's life. Ryan and I established a routine. Coffee dates, dinner twice a week, weekend outings that my family conveniently ran into us attending. We crafted our backstory meticulously, aligning details so our narrative remained consistent. For my parents' dinner, we arrived together, Ryan bringing my mother's favorite chocolates, a detail he'd extracted from our conversations. He and my father bonded over their shared love of vintage motorcycles, while my mother practically glowed watching us together. "He's perfect for you," she whispered when Ryan stepped outside with my father. "I've never seen you so happy." The troubling part was, she wasn't wrong. I was happier than I'd been in years. With each day, the line between pretense and reality blurred further. Ryan was becoming my closest confidant, the person I texted with random thoughts, whose opinion I valued, whose company I craved. One evening, helping me prepare for a job interview, he spent hours drilling me on questions, bolstering my confidence when anxiety threatened to overwhelm me. When I got the position, junior marketing manager at a small firm, less prestigious than my previous role but with growth potential, Ryan showed up at my apartment with champagne and takeout from my favorite Thai place. To new beginnings, he toasted, his eyes holding mine over our glasses. That night, our kiss wasn't for show. No family watching, no audience to convince. Just us, the champagne, and the unspoken recognition that whatever game we'd been playing had evolved into something neither of us had anticipated. As weeks turned to months, we settled into a relationship that felt both extraordinary in its inception and wonderfully ordinary in its execution. Movie nights on my couch, heated debates about books, Ryan reading me passages from his novel, revising when I gave feedback, me teaching him to make my grandmother's pierogi recipe, flour dusting our clothes as we laughed in my tiny kitchen. The wedding date we'd announced, June 15th, loomed larger on the calendar. Neither of us mentioned it directly, dancing around the subject with increasingly elaborate discussions of hypothetical venues and imaginary guest lists whenever family asked. The breaking point came during Melissa's wedding in April, a lavish affair where she'd seated us at the family table front and center. The maid of honor's speech included a pointed comment about couples who actually make it to the altar, her eyes flicking to us. Ryan's hand tightened around mine, later, swaying. Together during a slow dance, he whispered, "We need to talk about June." "Not here," I murmured, pressing closer to delay the inevitable. That night, in my apartment, the conversation we'd been avoiding finally surfaced. "We can't keep this up forever," Ryan said, pacing my living room. "Your family expects a wedding. We either need to come clean or what?" I asked when he trailed off. He stopped pacing, turned to face me. "Or make it real." My heart stuttered. "Ryan, I know how this started," he continued quickly. "I know it's backwards and probably crazy. But Emma, I'm in love with you. Not the person I pretended to know at that party. The real you. Stubborn, and kind and funny and scared sometimes, but braver than you give yourself credit for." I couldn't speak, couldn't breathe. "I'm not proposing," he clarified. "Not exactly. I'm just saying, maybe we stop pretending. Maybe we just be us, whatever that means, and figure out the rest as we go." In that moment, all the careful walls I'd built, the pretenses, the performances, the masks I wore for different audiences, crumbled away. The truth was terrifying in its simplicity. I loved him too. "I need to tell my family the truth," I said finally. Ryan's face fell. "I understand." "No, you don't." I moved closer, took his hands. "I need to tell them how we really met. That I lied about you before you existed in my life. That you saved me from my own fiction. And then, only then, can we move forward honestly." Hope flickered in his eyes. "Together?" "Together," I confirmed. The following Sunday, I gathered my immediate family for brunch. Ryan sat beside me, our hands clasped under the table as I finally unwound the elaborate fiction I'd created. I confessed everything. The job loss, the financial struggles, the invented fiancé, and then the miracle of Ryan appearing just when I needed him most. The silence when I finished was deafening. My father stared at his plate. My mother's lips pressed into a thin line. My sister Paige looked between Ryan and me with wide eyes. "So you've been lying," my father said finally. "Both of you." "Yes," I admitted, "but not about how we feel now." My mother dabbed at her eyes with her napkin. "I don't understand why you couldn't just tell us you were struggling, Emma. We're your family." "Because I didn't want to disappoint you," I whispered. "Because I was ashamed." "Oh, honey." She reached across the table for my hand. "The only thing that disappoints me is thinking you couldn't come to us." "And you," my father turned to Ryan, expression stern. "What kind of man goes along with a deception like this?" Ryan met his gaze steadily. "The kind who falls in love and realizes truth matters more than saving face. I'm not proud of how this started, sir, but I'm proud of where we are now." My sister broke the tension with a laugh. "This is literally the most romantic thing I've ever heard. It's like a movie." Slowly, the atmosphere lightened. Questions flowed, genuine ones this time. The real story of how we met. Our first real date. The moment we knew this wasn't pretend. "Any more?" "So there's no wedding in June?" my mother asked finally. Ryan and I exchanged glances. "No," I said. "Not in June. But maybe someday," Ryan added, his fingers tightening around mine. "When it's right, when it's real." As we left my parents' house, the future stretching before us uncertain but full of possibility, I realized something profound. For months, I'd been terrified of being seen as a failure, of admitting weakness, vulnerability, imperfection. But in releasing that fear, in embracing the messy truth, I'd found something far more valuable than the approval I'd been chasing. I'd found myself. And somehow, miraculously, I'd found someone who saw me, truly saw me, and loved what he saw. "What now?" Ryan asked as we walked to his car, spring sunshine warming our faces. I smiled, slipping my hand into his. "Now we write our own story. No fiction needed." Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out, and don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.